power, prestige, and bloodlines. That was the royal formula for centuries. But behind the glittering crowns and grand palaces was a darker obsession, keeping that bloodline pure. In the world's most powerful dynasties, love and choice were often replaced by duty and genetics. Cousins married cousins, uncles married nieces, and slowly over generations, the consequences began to show. In twisted limbs, failing minds, and haunting legacies that history couldn't ignore. Today, we uncover the shocking truth about royal inbreeding. Not just how it happened, but what it did to the monarchs who lived through its cost. From strange deformities to rulers unfit to rule, these stories are as tragic as they are unforgettable. What is inbreeding? Inbreeding, by definition, is the reproduction between individuals who are closely related. Siblings, cousins, uncles, and nieces. For ordinary people, this might sound unthinkable, but for centuries, royal families across Europe saw it as a necessary evil. By marrying within their own bloodline, they hoped to preserve their family's claim to the throne, concentrate political alliances, and keep wealth from scattering. What they didn't fully understand, however, was that this practice significantly increased the risk of genetic disorders. Inbreeding makes it more likely for children to inherit two identical copies of a recessive gene, which can lead to a range of physical and mental conditions. To measure how inbred someone is, scientists use the inbreeding coefficient. A score of 0 means no inbreeding, while a score of 1 represents total genetic sameness. Children of first cousins, that's a 0.0625, about a 6.25% risk of shared genes. But children of siblings or parent-child relationships, that jumps to 0.25, a whopping 25%. And now that we understand the science, let's dive into the monarchs whose lives were forever shaped by this silent danger. One family stands above all others in their dedication to dynastic inbreeding. The Habsburgs, rulers of the Holy Roman Empire, Spain, Austria, and beyond. They were a political powerhouse for over 500 years. But their family tree, more of a tangled knot than a tree at all. The Habsburg became infamous for arranging marriages between uncles and nieces, first cousins, and even double cousins. As a result, their bloodline became alarmingly condensed. Over generations, the genetic consequences of this inbreeding manifested in a physical deformity known as the Habsburg Jaw, a protruding lower jaw so pronounced it became synonymous with the dynasty. This wasn't just a cosmetic quirk. The jaw deformity made chewing difficult, speech unclear, and created real health complications. And no Habsburg monarch paid a higher price than King Charles II of Spain. Born to an uncle-niece union, Charles had an inbreeding coefficient of 0.25. Despite not being the product of siblings, his family had inbred so heavily for so long that his genetic makeup was just as compromised. He struggled with multiple health conditions from birth. Charles had a misshapen skull, an oversized tongue that made speaking difficult, and severe learning disabilities. He couldn't walk unaided until age 8 and didn't speak until he was 4. Chronic illnesses plagued him. Measles, rubella, smallpox, and likely kidney and hormonal disorders. Some believe he was sterile and he never fathered a child. Nicknamed Charles the Bewitched, his very existence was blamed on curses and witchcraft, but the true explanation lay in his lineage. Even after death, Charles's tragedy continued. His autopsy revealed chilling details: a heart the size of a peppercorn, decaying organs, and a single blackened testicle. His brain was swollen with fluid. His reign ended the Spanish Habsburg line and ushered in a war for succession across Europe. Don Carlos. Next, we turn to Don Carlos, the only son of King Philip II of Spain and Maria of Portugal. His life reads like a cautionary tale of genetic collapse. Don Carlos had only 4 great-grandparents, half the number a person usually has due to generations of cousin marriages. He was born with misaligned limbs, differing leg lengths, and suffered from intense behavioral problems from an early age. As a teenager, he descended into violence and paranoia. He once forced a servant to eat feces and frequently beat animals to death. After a head injury in his late teens, doctors drilled into his skull using trepanation, a crude and dangerous procedure meant to relieve brain pressure. The injury only worsened his behavior. Don Carlos began mutilating himself and attempting to harm others, including trying to shoot and strangle his own half-brother, Don John of Austria. When he plotted to flee to the Netherlands to align with rebels, it was the final straw. His own father, King Philip, ordered his arrest. Don Carlos was confined to his quarters under constant surveillance, stripped of all tools, glass, or sharp objects. Within 6 months, he had wasted away either by illness, starvation, or poison. He died at just 23. Ferdinand I in the grand courts of Imperial Vienna, where military marches echoed and ministers debated under frescoed ceilings, one figure stood quietly apart. Ferdinand I of Austria. Born in 1793, Ferdinand entered the world not as a symbol of strength, but as a frail heir weighed down by centuries of compressed bloodlines. His parents were double first cousins, an arrangement that on paper united royal houses. But in practice, it handed Ferdinand a genetic hand stacked with complications. From infancy, his condition was painfully clear. He suffered from hydrocele, a disorder that caused fluid to collect in his skull, resulting in pressure, pain, and a misshapen head. He endured frequent and severe epileptic seizures that sometimes struck without warning multiple times a day. His speech was slow and slurred, his motor skills so underdeveloped that basic actions like opening a door or climbing a step were monumental tasks. Yet Ferdinand was no dullarded. In private moments, he surprised those around him with sharp humor, a photographic memory, and a fondness for science, art, and languages. He spoke 5. His journals reflected a man trapped inside a malfunctioning body, yet still capable of thought, observation, and curiosity. He had a keen eye for nature and was fascinated by the world, even if he could barely move through it unassisted. Still, in a time when monarchy meant more than ceremony, his disabilities posed a political problem. When he was crowned Emperor of Austria in 1835, it was largely symbolic. The reins of power were swiftly passed to a council led by Prince Metternich. Ferdinand might have worn the crown, but he never truly ruled. His marriage to Maria Anna of Sardinia, another royal relative, was a quiet arrangement with no children, largely because his medical condition made intimacy nearly impossible. Maria Anna became more of a caretaker than a queen, and the couple lived in quiet companionship rather than regal splendor. When revolutionary winds swept across Europe in 1848, demanding change, it wasn't Ferdinand who stood in their way. Instead, he was gently ushered into abdication. And perhaps for the first time in his life, he found peace. In retirement, Ferdinand lived a life that many described as serene. He strolled through Prague handing out sweets to children, known to locals not as a failed emperor, but as Ferdinand the Benign. The people never blamed him for the empire's troubles. He was seen as gentle, kind, and innocent. Ferdinand died in 1885 at the age of 82, a remarkably long life given the odds he faced. He left behind no legacy of conquests or reforms, but his story remains one of quiet endurance and a poignant reminder of how royal blood could both bless and betray. Maria of Portugal. Few monarchs bore the emotional scars of dynastic obsession more deeply than Maria of Portugal, the first woman to ever rule the country in her own right. Her reign began with optimism and piety, but ended in anguish, exile, and heartbreaking madness.